The Sun. My husband never mentioned my life was turned upside down last month when I was informed of my husband's death in a work-related accident. This would, of course, be hard enough to cope with, but shortly before the funeral, a young man at my house, claiming to be my late husband's son. My husband didn't speak a word about him to me. He claimed to have not known about me or either of my daughters, 12 and 8, until he was notified of my husband's death and found the obituary in the online version of our local paper. The young man was 18 and must have been born before I met my husband. He also claimed his own mother died years ago and was never to his memory in a relationship with my husband. So the boy's existence is not proof of infidelity on my husband's part. However, I still feel just as betrayed. My husband never breathed a word of him to me. This boy lives in the UK, where my husband sometimes worked. I live in the US. He traveled a lot in his line of work, and I can't help but wonder, how many other secret children did he have? How many times did my husband visit this boy and never told me about it? What else was he not telling me? This boy had pictures with himself and my husband at various ages. He says he was brought up at a boarding school, and my husband visited him sometimes. Though I very much want to, I have no reason to doubt his story. The boy asks to come to the funeral. I want to say no, but I feel like I have no right. My kids see me talking to this stranger and poke their heads in to ask what's going on. Before I can stop him, the boy introduces himself to them as their half-brother. Now, not only do I have to figure out how to cope with all this information myself, but I also have to find some way to explain it to my children. My 8YO doesn't seem to get the full implications of her father keeping this kind of secret from all of us, but my 12-yo is clearly upset, although she won't talk about it with me. At the funeral, the boy kind of lurked in the corner, but when lunch was served afterwards, he approached both my girls and was playing games like tag with my 8YO and some of her friends who joined in. I didn't think this was appropriate, and when I told him so, he apologized and said he did it to raise her spirits, and it's what people did for him when his mother died, to cheer him up. Something about his answer irked me, and I got the impression he was trying to manipulate me into feeling sorry for him and using my children to do it. My mom and my sister came over to help me after I got the news about my husband. Of course, I talked to them about what was going on, and they were shocked. My mom brought up the point that the boy might be after money. All of our important assets were in both of our names, and I am the only beneficiary of his life insurance policy. But I was not sure what could happen if he tried to sue. I asked the boy frankly if money is what he was after, and he said, "No, I couldn't take any of your money. You have kids to take care of." It irked me the way he said that, as though I was offering money and he was trying to show how good he was by turning it down. It felt as though he expected me to give it to him anyway. I asked the boy what he wanted, and he said he wanted to get to know my children because they're his sisters. In my opinion, they might be his sisters, but he's a stranger to them regardless of biological relation. Apparently, at the funeral, he told my 8YO he was going to ask me if he could take my girls to the aquarium, and so that got her hopes up about it before I could even make a decision. I said yes only if my mom or sister went with them BC. I wasn't about to let my girls go with a strange man, no matter what. Over the next week, he also took my girls to the park, ice cream place, and the lake, with my sister as a chaperone every time. I agreed to this, and it was helpful because it gave me a chance to break down and cry to my mom without the girls around. When he left, and my 8YO hugged him and told him not to go, and he said, "I promise I'll come visit again." I stepped in and said, "No, I think it would be best if you didn't come back here." He looked hurt, and my 8YO cried, but I was sick of him promising things without getting approval. She thinks it's a cool mystery, like from a TV show that she has a secret brother, and she doesn't realize how disturbing it is that her father hid his existence. My sister asked me later why I told him not to come back, and I told her I think the whole thing is weird. I don't know this boy or his real intentions. He could be some kind of weirdo trying to get my girls alone. My sister says I judged without ever getting to know him, and he seems like a very sweet young man. He grew up mostly without a family, and he could have been jealous that my girls got all his father's attention, but instead, he wanted to connect with them. My sis says that I don't have to want him in my life, but I don't have the right to deny the girls their brother. She pointed out social workers do everything they can to avoid separating siblings because of the trauma. I said it's not the same thing because my girls have only known this brother for a week. My sister said it's also important because my girl's brother is now the only person they know of their culture. My husband was like 1/8 Hawaiian, the rest white and Asian. And so the girls and their brother are like 1/16, the boy appears to be white, and my daughters and I are black. But this boy was raised in the UK, and he isn't part of Hawaiian culture, and honestly, I think culture is something natural and not something to force because of your genetics. My girls don't live in Hawaii, they live in Oregon, so that is their culture. Not black culture or Hawaiian culture. I don't force myself or my girls to participate in African culture just because of our genetics. I thought my 8YO would get over her brother, and she did go several weeks without asking about him, but yesterday she asked about him again. I feel bad about ever allowing them to go anywhere together and bond. I wish I'd handled the whole thing differently, and now I don't know how to explain the situation to my kids. My 12YO hasn't asked about her brother, but she has been extremely closed off since her father's death, and I don't know how this issue might be complicating what she's feeling. I just need outside opinions to know what to do about this. Most comments were calling OOP the asshole, or saying she needed to allow her daughters to know their brother. Some people asked OOP why she didn't ask for a DNA test, to which she replied this: I thought about maybe asking the boy about a DNA test, but I don't know what it would achieve. I don't want him in my life or my daughter's life either way, and even if the DNA test came back negative, it would only raise more questions. And I don't know if it would open up any legal troubles where now I owe the boy money from my husband's estate if it comes up positive. Update 1. My husband's son, I wasn't trying to demean him by calling him the boy, I was avoiding using names, was telling the truth. My husband's name wasn't on his birth certificate, but the DNA test did show he was related to my kids. He also had more photos, cards, and voicemails, tons of evidence to prove that my husband did keep regular contact with him. Apparently, the son's grandparents were his legal guardians. My husband occasionally gave them cash as under-the-table child support. I did notice that husband sometimes made large withdrawals when he went overseas. He said it was because shops there don't take his card. I wanted to believe it was a scam because I thought it made more sense than husband having lied. Talking to my husband's son a bit more revealed he'd been lying to him too. Apparently, he told him he was a cowboy and a pro football player. Then when son Googled him, he switched to saying he was a gangster who had done prison time. Needless to say, none of that is remotely true. I can't fathom what could possess him to behave this way. Lying to me, lying to his kid, not raising his kid. I'm questioning everything husband ever told me, and wondering if it was me who died, would he have abandoned our kids as well? I feel horrible for that boy. I'm in therapy and working on ways to cope and forgive husband for my own peace of mind. She's helped me work out why I reacted to husband's son the way I did. I thought he was manipulating me and my kids, but what I actually sensed was that he wanted something from me and my kids. I felt like me and my daughters were not in a place to give anything emotionally or financially asterisk, so I recoiled from him. But that doesn't mean he's a threat. My kids went to therapy as well. 12YO has weekly sessions. However, my 8YO hated it, so I've pulled her out for now. Many people have shared their own stories of being separated from bio relations and the effect it had on them. I don't understand it because genes don't mean much to me. However, I don't have to understand to respect it. I personally don't feel like I'm in any place to have any kind of relationship with husband's son, and I don't think he wants one with me. He now appears scared of me, which I do feel bad about. I wasn't trying to hurt him or scare him, but I will allow him to visit sometime if my girls want to see him. Sis agreed to continue to supervise. As far as money goes, the lawyer advised me that there aren't many assets that son is entitled to because they were in both my and my husband's name, except for a few investment accounts that were only in my husband's name, thankfully not where the majority of our savings are. I know people think I'm an evil witch for caring about money, but I need it to feed, clothe, and educate my own children. I don't feel like I really count as a step-parent. I don't know if I'm in the right place for this. When I went to other subs for advice, it felt like an angry mob, and I'm hoping people here might be able to relate to some asterisk of the things I'm going through. I didn't know my husband had a son until after I became a widow. His son is 18 and lives in the UK, where my husband regularly visited him without telling me. My husband apparently kept our family, myself and my 2 daughters, 13 and 8, a secret from his son as well. The son found out about us after my husband died and showed up at my door to introduce himself. I didn't handle it well at the time. I was in a fog and not prepared to process anything, let alone the fact that my husband had been hiding a secret of such magnitude from me. I let him get close to my daughters, but when he said he would come back to visit, I reacted negatively and told him not to come back. After talking things through with my mother and sister, I realized that I didn't have the right to keep my daughters from their brother. If they wanted a relationship with him, I reached out to the boy to confirm his story and decide on a time to visit. It was supposed to be late next month. My sister was supposed to come out and help and supervise all interaction between my children and their brother, because I am not mentally prepared to be around him and I'm not sure I ever will be. Even though I know my feelings are irrational, I honestly want nothing to do with this boy. I know my husband's behavior is not his fault and that he is a victim too, but even just looking at his face is a reminder that my husband lied to me for our entire relationship. If I had known he had a child, I might have chosen a different life. I got pregnant in college with my oldest. He was older with a stable job and able to provide for me and my child. He made all these promises. He'd take care of me, he'd take care of our baby, he'd help me get through college, he'd be the good father he never had. And he already had a child he wasn't raising. God, if I'd known that I might have had an abortion and walked away. I fell in love with him when he said those things, and now I feel like the person I fell in love with never even existed. I don't know if he ever loved me or our kids. I don't know if he was playing a game with us or using us to build an image. I don't know if he was faithful to me on all those overseas trips. I can't trust anything he ever told me anymore. None of this is his son's fault. He's innocent, I know that. But even remembering his existence brings up so many feelings I can't deal with, which is why my sister said she would help supervise. She played chaperone when my husband's son was getting to know my kids eventually. She said she'd be willing to do it again. We picked a time and she said she'd be there. Today, she tells me she can't do it. Her job is understaffed and she can't get the time off work. My mom can't do it either. She has a surgery coming up and won't be able to travel. My dad will also need to be home to take care of her. I am not going to leave my kids alone with their brother, what my sister suggested, since he is frankly still a stranger to me and to them. There might be a 99% chance he has pure intentions, but that 1% chance isn't one I'm willing to take. There are all kinds of stories out there about children being abused by trusted family members, so my only options are to cancel the visit, which my kids, especially my 8YO, are looking forward to. And I don't want to take away one of the few things they've been able to feel happy about since my husband died, or be the chaperone myself. This will also mean I need to take time off work. I can manage, but it's not ideal. I just don't think I can do it. I didn't choose to be a stepmother. I'm sure the boy doesn't really want me as one either. I apparently scared him when I told him not to come back, and when we talked on Zoom since then, he acted nervous and flinchy, like he was afraid I was about to hit him or something. I feel bad about that, as it wasn't my intention. I don't think I can do this. I feel like the meeting is a disaster waiting to happen. Like it's only a matter of time before I lose my temper and ruin the meeting that my kids have been looking forward to. I just have this feeling of dread. I don't know if anyone can help. Maybe it's a long shot. I have therapy on Thursday, and I hope it'll help me sort things out. I just feel like I can't do this. It's humiliating to even share this problem with anyone. And even if I try to talk things out with one of the few people I do trust, it's always think about your kids, think about your husband's son, put yourself in their shoes. People even show more sympathy for my husband than me. Maybe it was a coping mechanism for his childhood trauma. Maybe he had a good reason. I'm just burnt out on putting everyone else first and trying to fill the role of both parents for my kids right now. I feel like it's only so long before I snap, and the rope just got a lot thinner. Edit. Thank you for the kind words and advice. When I posted, I was thrown for the loop and on the verge of a mental breakdown. Having had time to sleep on it, I feel that things are going to turn out okay. I'll look into some of your suggestions, such as professional nanny/babysitting services to go along with them. My sister has also said she may be able to work remotely during those weeks and be able to supervise while the kids hang out in his hotel room, McDonald's, library, or somewhere else while she can work while watching. Not ideal because it means they would have to cancel some planned activities. Canceling or postponing the trip would be a last resort. I won't make any decision rashly. I'm going to take a few days to think about things, talk it out with my therapist on Thursday, and have a definite answer by Monday. it might not be impossible for me to supervise. At first, I panicked because I didn't think I would have to and felt unprepared, but I might be able to psych myself up for it with time. I've been through worse trials than this. Sometimes I just need to remind myself that I'm stronger than I feel. I appreciate the kindness and civility from this community. I wasn't sure if my post belonged here, but you all seem much more understanding than other subs, and I truly appreciate it. And let you all know how the visit went. He stayed for about 1.5 weeks. Before he came over, we talked a few times on Zoom, with me, him, and his grandparents. I told him my sister was not going to be able to supervise, and I was frank about how apprehensive I was feeling, about being the one to supervise. I don't think he was thrilled about me supervising either. He knew and felt comfortable with my sister, not me. So the feeling was mutual. But we decided to go ahead with the visit anyway. We made a few changes in what they had previously planned when my sister was going to supervise, but not many. We also discussed contingency plans for if something went wrong and one of us needed space. Just knowing that I would have an out if I needed it was a huge relief and helped immensely. Overall, things went relatively well. He and I were civil. I got uncomfortable, but not to the point where I couldn't cope. He and my girls got along well. With the exception of one incident, when my girls got into a spat with each other and he tried to intervene, which made them both mad at him. But it was quickly resolved after each girl had their time stewing about it. I will say he was very good with both my girls, but especially my 8YO, who has been having a very difficult time lately, even before her father died. She's been struggling a lot with school and trying to find the right treatment for multiple diagnoses. She's been acting out and been very easily frustrating for a lot of the adults in her life, including me, I admit. I love her and I do my best, but she is difficult sometimes. But with her brother, it's like they are kindred spirits or something. He was a real trooper acting out scenes from the movie Encanto with her over and over. I realize it is probably really good for her to have an adult in her life who doesn't want anything from her except to spend time with her. Before the boy left, I gave him a thank you card, expressing this to him, and that I do genuinely hope he chooses to stay involved. Overall, it was a positive thing.